Hello, YouTube and Twitter, probably. I'll put this up on Twitter as well. My name is Mariah. If you haven't seen any of my videos, welcome. Today, I want to discuss Gnosticism because I see a lot of people who just think that Gnosticism is mystical Christianity or some sort of Christianity, or has to do with Jesus and the Essenes and things like that. Which, if you believe, all well and good, great, power to you. I just think that there is a little too much Christian flavor in mainstream Gnosticism, and that is what I don't really love about it. And I don't really like using the word Gnosticism. However, it is kind of the best word to use because ancient Gnosticism has a lot more information. My hair a little bit today, it's kind of like flipping out. Has a lot more information about the goddess, the female form, and our planet than I think the Gnostic revisionists would have you believe. Now, if you are into Gnostic Christianity and you want to come and argue with me, save it. You believe whatever you want to believe. I don't really care. I like to offer my perspective on Gnosticism because it was very liberating for me as a woman, finding out that this movement, I would call it more of a movement than a religion, is actually based in the worship of our planet as the deity, the Aeon Sophia, who made humanity. And I just love that nugget, that tidbit of information, because it's just, we hear I grew up Christian, so I'm sure many of you can relate that we hear Bible stories having to do with men and their conquests and their lessons and blah, blah, blah. And, maybe that is helpful for men. I don't know. I'm not a man. However, I find that the Gnostic story that I follow, which I prefer to call like Sophianic Gnostic or just Sophianic in general, it puts women back into the spotlight, and I think that there's men who don't like that. And that's fine. You don't have to like it, but you were born from a woman and you actually were a woman for 2 months in the womb. So everybody's a woman, and there is a big reason for that. There's a big reason for that, and that is what is explained in this Gnostic creation story that doesn't really get told. Now, when we see mainstream Gnosticism, which let's say it's from David Icke, I think that's probably the most mainstream that you're going to get with Gnosticism. He still doesn't really touch on the main themes of the goddess Sophia, the Aeon Sophia, who made humanity. And he does talk about the archons, but I don't find he really emphasizes where they come from and who they are in relation to us, because it's really important to have that context, because once you have that context, you can see it today in the issues that surround humanity, and you can go, oh, like we're still dealing with those same issues that the Gnostics identified as this, that, and the other thing, and warned us about it many, many years ago. And they warned about it in a way that said, you can't trust the deceivers and still people are listening to what they say and are going by the books of the Bible as the be all end all. And it's just like text from that time. You can find nuggets of good information, but you really have to contextualize it and think about it in that time period and how those books still made it to us and why they're popular today. If in my perspective, if there is something that is so popular, such as the Bible or those kinds of religious texts, and so popular you find them in every freaking hotel room, then there's an agenda there for why they would want you to read that and to follow that and to follow the narrative of that you are a victim, you're born into sin, and your God, which is not my God, had to tell his son to, or and that wasn't even the first time he tried to do that. For me, like, that was the number one red flag. I remember, because I went to a Christian school, I grew up Christian. I remember just being like, really? Like, if my dad were to sacrifice me, like, that's not who I would want to be vouching for my life in the afterlife. I just don't trust that. And I think Christianity and the Abrahamic religions have become so popular because it is that power move for men, and saying that, like, okay, we have this movement, people trust us, they have to come to us, pay us money, they have to confess so that they are free in some afterlife that we don't really tell them about. We just say, like, you're probably gonna burn and create all this fear and mistrust in the environment and mistrust in their own moral compass. And it's just big business. It's just big business. And once you kind of take that perspective and you go, oh wait, maybe it's not the full truth, maybe there are pieces of the truth in these texts, maybe you can find useful information. Like, I don't want to discount that and say, okay, the whole Bible is garbage, like, throw it out, because I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think it's been so curated over the years since the Council of Nicaea, or however you say it, that the books that are now so popularized and mainstream are because they placate populations the best. And it, like I said, you might find some good information that helps you, and a lot of it, Ruben and I, my fiance, we were watching Zeitgeist again the other day. It's so old, but it had the same thing where it's like, okay, Jesus, the sun god, and all these other cultures have the same story, and you have to think, okay, why this story? What are the powers that be, let's call them, what are the powers that be getting from, sorry, this keeps bugging me, from the majority of their populations thinking that this is the Son of God and, whatever, what have you, and that this is a story that they follow, because humans do need a story. For sure we need a story. We are just that kind of creature, and we were made in such a beautiful way to move forward with a story, with a myth that is alive, which is why the Bible just kind of, it sets stuff all out here. And like, it does say that you have, like, a kingdom inside of you, but you have to go to church to find it. Like, and even if, my thing is I get hung up on Jesus a lot. I'm sure there's very well-meaning people that love Jesus and are finding solace in Jesus and stuff like that, but I just think perhaps he was a real person, perhaps, but that the story constructed around him is used for a purpose of controlling populations by regurgitating the same story that's been told in many different cultures over many years, that, and so that's my issue. It's like, okay, why that story, especially when there is another story that exists? And that is why I share the Sophianic Gnostic story, because again, I do agree that as humans, we need a story to guide us. We need some sort of living myth that gives us purpose, gives us hope, and allows us to feel a part of everything, like something meaningful. Because then you got the other side, the atheists, that are like, oh, this is just all an accident and humans aren't meant to be anything other than a virus on this planet. And I don't believe that either. I think that there is this other option. Now, if you've ever been on my channel before, you have probably heard this story. Even if, like, I tweet about it, I give, like, little snippets here and there. And, I really want to take kind of a female woman perspective on this, because for us as women to have a story that puts the center back on women, I think is hugely triggering for men. And it might even be triggering for some women that have really internalized misogyny, because I've been seeing a lot of that around, where they just think that men have to make all their decisions for them, and that if a decision comes from a woman, it's not grounded in reality. Now, reality is something else too, and I talked about that in my last video. However, let me just give you the little spiel of the ancient Gnostic creation story. And if you want to read more, I would check out John Lamb Lash's book, Not in His Image. I gave it to a friend to borrow, otherwise I would hold it up. But it's a great book. You can find it on Amazon. And he also has a website, nematot.org, where you can like poke around and find some good info. Now, his primary sources, which you can read yourself, are the Nag Hammadi Codices, and as well as Against Heresies by Irenaeus is a good one to find. And these primary sources, again, this is still contextual of the time, which is why I really love Against Heresies by Irenaeus, because you can find this online too. Because Irenaeus is describing the Gnostics as heretics against the church, but he describes exactly what they believed in that time. And he says stuff like they believed that the mother, Sophia, the Aeon Sophia of the Gnostics, fell and became our planet, and her sorrow became the oceans, and her sweat became the lakes, and things like that. Like, it's really beautiful and it's very poetic. And it just really lends to the kind of a view into what the ancient Gnostics actually believed, because he's disputing it all. And I find with the Nag Hammadi Codices, like, it's pretty convoluted, and these are books that were left out of the Bible, so you can still find some like kind of biblical books in there that have the same themes. But then you find on the origin of the world, which is great. Like, that's a fabulous story, an alternative to the Genesis, really, of the Bible. The hypostasis, I don't know if you'd say it like that, of the Archons is another book in there. I read all these things and I don't really say them out loud, but that's another one where you can find these sources of information that kind of give us more insight as to what was believed back then. And then once you engage with it, it becomes alive in your life today. Now, why is that? It's because our planet all around us is alive, and she is the mother Aeon, the creator being of the human genome, the human species. Now, let me start from our beginning, at least, which begins in the galactic core. Now, this is called the pleroma by the Gnostics, which is the fullness. And Mr. John Lamb Lash locates the pleroma, which I like and I find resonates with my beliefs, into our galactic core, the core of the Milky Way galaxy. Now, if you come from a New Age background as well, you'll know that this central sun or galactic core or things like that are referenced. Now, this is kind of marrying that, and it's going, okay, well, what if it's the center of our galaxy, and what if it's where these creative beings that are beyond our scale live and imagine and create and play? You know, is that a thing that could happen? And you have to think like, oh, well, that's not what I learned in the Bible, that there's just like one God and he's just like got a gray beard and he's judging me all the time. Like, that is a fucking fantasy. But if you can believe that, then why can't this other thing be believable? Like, you really think that there's, okay, anyways. Some people think that. I think they just watch too much Family Guy. Anyways. So we're in the galactic core, and this is where the Gnostics identified as the home place of the Aeons. Now, if you want to get like super ungrounded and think of crazy stuff, I do believe that there is a Aeonic home in each center of each galaxy, spewing out creations, and this is how things get created. But like I said, for the purposes of our story, it's important to know that there is a number of Aeons. I think this is Valentinian Gnosticism that kind of identifies a number of aeons and gives them names and stuff like that. But I don't like to focus too much on that. I like to just kind of stay streamlined, stay in my lane of the human story. And for our purposes, we had the younger Aeon, the Aeon Sophia, as a female, and her male consort, which John Lamb calls Stellate. Some people call him Christos, but I don't like that because I think that just is people who read the Bible too much and are looking for that validation. I think, like, just, you know, it's important to, like, the names don't really matter because they're all Greek anyway, and we know them as Greek because they were identified first in the Greek language, or whatever. I don't really know that. However, I don't think the names are as important. They are these beings, and they exist in male-female pairs, and their purpose is to make creations and send them through the boundary of the pleroma, the boundary of the galactic core, into our galaxy, where it'll then, like, it's kind of sent on these little filaments where it will then travel and then gestate where it needs to gestate, land on a planet, do whatever, and become existence. And that's what happens as per the Gnostics with creations. That's how humans got here. Now, why we humans are so special, and why I believe there is attention on us within our galaxy and beyond, is because our mother Aeon, Sophia, had created the human genome, and again we had destroyed ourselves. And this is part of the story. And again, we were just not working. And she, being a loving mother, without her male consort, now this is important, everything they do has to be in these pairs, but Sophia was so concerned that she took to a daydreaming, a creative imagination of how she can help humanity without her male consort. She must have did this when he was off, I don't know, doing something else, talking to somebody, and she's just like racking her brain. Oh my God, how do I fix this? How do I fix my crazy little humans? How can I get them to survive? And because she did this without her male consort, oopsie, she on her own, in her dreaming mind, was compelled herself, with the human genome attached to her, through that pleromic boundary into the Milky Way galaxy. Oops. And this is talked about in the Gnostic texts, and they say that this is, you know, Sophia's mistake, and she was so passionate and audacious and Coco Loco that she just fell into her own experiment by a complete accident, a complete anomaly, without her male counterpart. Now, when she did this, breaking through the boundary of the pleroma as her, like, a dream body, like I see it as some sort of mitosis. As she passed through the membrane, it was like her imagination mind, her dreaming mind, split off with the human genome, and that's how she entered into the experiment. Again, that's just my idea, but I think that makes sense, because in some of the texts they say Barbello and Sophia, or Sophia and Eve, and like there's this mother-daughter mitosis kind of split, and I think that makes the most sense, is that her dreaming mind fell into the Milky Way galaxy with the human genome attached to her. Now, because she did this without her male counterpart, as soon as she passed through the boundary, she expelled some sort of abortion. Again, another anomaly, because we're in a series of anomalies right now. And I'm just gonna open some fresh air. And as soon as she did this expulsion, which is talked about as an abortion, is like this piece of her that is completely devoid of the male and is like an inversion of what a healthy male would be. And it's like, it's a being, It's a being that has some sort of Sophia's intelligence, a small sliver, but it doesn't have the balance of the male female. It is totally deficient in the male, and it was created outside of the pleroma. So that's like two major things going against it. And this aborted fetus kind of being ends up in space as she is still barreling through space, still falling with her human genome attached to her as this dreaming imagination in the Milky Way galaxy that is real. It's physical and it's real, and she's here. It's just the size of her, you know? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was her whole freaking body that just came through the pleromic boundary, but I don't know. I don't know that. But there's definitely at least a part of her, if not all of her, traveling through the Milky Way galaxy with the human genome attached to her. And she accidentally created this deficiency of the male, her like oopsie, big mistake son that doesn't have any of the characteristics or properties that he should have as a divine creation, because he was not intended. He was made outside of the pleroma and doesn't have the balance of the male included in his creation. So as she's barreling through space, trying to think of a solution for humanity, because she's like, oh my God, now I really need to think of a solution. She is traveling, and she's like, oh my God, okay, what am I gonna do? And this deficiency that she made sees her and is like, what? Okay. So he goes off, and because he does have a sliver of creativity, he ends up making like a legion. These are the archons. Who I'm talking about is the demiurge. And it's like a swarm of like flies. Like he could make these like little worker beings. They're actually the gray aliens. You know, let's get a little meta here. And the whole purpose of him is to, you know, knock Sophia off her course. So he makes his legions, and he goes, listen, I'm the only one around here. There's nobody else. You'll obey me. I'm the only God. I'm jealous. Don't play with me. Don't play with me. And then as soon as he says that to like his weird little legions, Sophia shows up, and she's like, brother, no, that's not what it is. I am your mom. Come here, and you will be within your boundaries, and you can be fine. Just don't like, don't go through these, but don't push it. Basically, don't push it. Like, you can have life, but like stay within your boundaries, make your own stuff, and leave me alone with humanity, because there is this luminous being that is intended, that is better than you. And she kind of like triggered the hell out of him. And his, you know, he was just kind of more vindicated in how he would destroy her. And this is where the jealousy starts of humanity. He learns that there is a luminous being that was intended, that is not him, and that this being actually has much more power than him just by nature of their creation, which is us, humanity. And this is where jealousy starts, because I believe that emotions transcend just our human physical experience. I think that they are from the beings, the aeons that created us. They experience emotions. Now, I wouldn't say they really experience jealousy, but because of the deficiency of how the demiurge was created, he got the inverse. So he, in my opinion, is the reason why we experience jealousy, and it's not earthly. It doesn't come from earth. It doesn't come from humanity. However, we get influenced and we experience it because the demiurge gets into us psychically. Anyways, back to, we're still in the galaxy. We're still like flying around. And because the demiurge and his archons want to bother Mama Sophia, they just kind of like swarm her, like, wow, wow, like as she's like trying to find a place for humanity. And she's like, okay, she sees the Orion star system. He kind of like catches her, and there is an event that shears the human template and creates the separation of the sexes. Okay, do you read this in the Bible? Like, I've never read that in the Bible. And this episode is from John Lamlash. However, I find that it's just, true or not, it gives some context as to why Orion is so valued by male-dominated secret societies, because as Sophia was falling in, this human genome was split. She had to leave the male split half in the Orion star system because she had, like, it got split from her, and so she left it there to gestate and to become, basically that is where men get their power from the Orion star system. The hunters, the shamans that they are, that is kind of their origin. But she's still like, she's like, okay, see ya. And then she's still barreling through space. So she eventually finds a spot that is our now solar system, and she compels the sun and she compels the moon by her force. And there is dialogue on this in the Gnostic text, which is really cool. And her solution then, her tri-body solution, is to condense herself into becoming the planet upon which humanity lives and thrives, okay? And as she's doing this, it's important to remember that she has the female genome attached to her. So when she is developing as the planet Earth, as our Gaia, she is doing it alongside women. And women are the first people on Earth. And she has the form of a woman because she develops with this female genome that she still has attached to her. And she is female, right? So this is why it's so important to not let that part go, because not only is she a female, but she developed as the Earth with women at the same time, which is why there's mythologies of Amazonian women, of women being the first people here, of there just being, you know, no men. Women technically don't need men to create. And back then, when the dreaming of Gaia Sophia was so real and so felt and so ingrained with women, we could dream to create. Nowadays, it's a little different because we've gone through who knows how many years of human history. Men came back and that is an interesting episode, and basically, in a nutshell, men in the Orion system, being hunter shamans, could induce a trance-like state and basically teleport along those same lines that the Aeons send their creations on. They would find those lines, and because they were hunters, they found planet Earth as a place to hunt. And it is very romantic, and they didn't anticipate women being there, but women were there, and there was, you know, a little kerfuffle at first, but obviously, you know, here we are with men. and this is why I think in some of these ancient texts, they say kingship descended from the sky, and really it's men came down on these filaments and had to learn how to have a real physical earthly body via the goddess. And that is why there's so much lore about hunter shamans and trees. Look at Odin. Adonis, I think, was birthed from a tree. Like there's all these myths and legends of men being literally physically birthed through a tree, or having to access a tree to access their full powers, or to get a body. Like, it's not like these come from nowhere. Like, yes, they're stories and they're myths, but once you kind of learn this other Gnostic story, and then you're like, oh, like, wait, this is maybe not the first time I've heard of it. I just, you know, didn't really put it together. And Sophia, our planet, is still here. Like, she hasn't gone anywhere. So if you're gonna follow with me this full story, this full Gnostic creation story of Gaia Sophia creating humanity and being here as our planet, as our setting for humanity to thrive. And that also there is like our really annoying cousin and his stupid legion like trying to, take away what we have. Then that all those little pieces of information are in the Gnostic creation story as to why humanity is still under some sort of psychic threat. Like, because the psychic threat is real. You can, watch Zeitgeist or you can see just the effect of media on people, of the news and all these things. And it's like, it seems like they're just trying to induce fear. And okay, why? Like, why would you want everybody to be scared? Oh, it's because there's actually these psychic parasites that really do exist, but their purpose is just to make us unhappy. It's not like they really want to take Earth, because they can't. They know that they can't. That's why they're not really even here. That's why they do all their bidding through humanity. The Archons and the Demiurge need humanity to listen to those motherfuckers and do their bidding. Now, if we just choose to ignore, block, and delete, then he would have no choice but to remain within his boundaries. But he likes to push it, and he will induce fear through all these crazy things via the humans that listen to him and his false promises. And unfortunately, bringing it all back around, this Demiurge, who you might have had an inclination of who he was before with the jealousy, is the god that most people pray to for absolution and forgiveness and all these things that they think that some crazy dude who's jealous of them can give them and wants to give them. It's like, no, actually he's just sending you spinning because he doesn't want you finding out that your real power, your real truth is not only in the form of a woman, but is our planet. And she is here so, sorry, there's some bottom of this. She is here so imminently that you might just miss her. And I think that is the beauty of the story. And I think that the thing that we just we overlook women all the time, and you find out in these stories much later that okay, this guy invented this thing, but it was actually his wife doing all the work. Or you find that there was this, somebody won a Nobel Peace Prize, and the work was actually done by women, and somebody just took credit. I'm not saying that women are perfect. Obviously, that's the whole point of this Gnostic story, is that nothing is perfect, and perfectionism doesn't exist. And the idea of perfect is also coming from this guy, this being who doesn't want you to succeed and doesn't want you to know true happiness and trust in the power source that is giving you life right now. He wants you to just think of something else, that it's over here, that it's over there. It could never be you, and it could never be the planet that's around you that you are breathing every single moment, because that would give too much power to you. And he doesn't want you to know that you already have that power. It's already so present in you that all you need to do is just check in with it and be like, whoa, my planet has been keeping me alive this whole time? That's crazy. Yeah, no. And once you learn this story, you understand who Sophia is and how present she is here as our planet, she engages with you. The craziest part is you will start to have dreams where maybe, and I started with this, she'll fix things in my brain, or you'll experience her in meditation. You will just see her name. You'll get these books that maybe you want to read that you never resonated with before. And it just kind of all comes together, because I know I said I don't really like the Bible, but I like some parts of it. And the wisdom of Solomon is one of those parts. And wisdom is Sophia. Sophia is the Greek word for wisdom. And he says stuff that she is the mover of all things. She is the endless light. She orders all things. And this is the real experience of Solomon, and it's the experience that you can have today of knowing who she is, engaging with her, and trusting her that she can actually deliver material proof, wealth, support to you all the time, because she is all of that. She is this setting. If you engage with her, she then, treats you like the star that you are. It's just when we're ignoring her, it's not that she's ignoring us back, it's just we can't receive her. It's a two-way street. So when we are open to her, we find out that she's been flowing to us and looking for our attention this whole time. She's just been sitting there patiently. And once we kind of go like, oh, hey, like I'm ready, then it just opens up. And you find that solutions that you could not have planned for just kind of happen. And by solutions, I mean like, this is manifestation also. People think that it just happens. Like, no, it's actually our planet, the creator of our life, actively assisting us in ways that go beyond what us humans can permeate, because she is all of it. So, moral of the story here is, if you are a woman looking for an alternative religion or movement, this is it. Welcome. If you are wondering what Gnosticism actually is and you're thinking, oh my God, this is just Christianity, that's not true. And the real moral of the story is, connect with your planet. She will teach you. She will teach you. And once you kind of learn her background story, she just takes over from there. And that is the most beautiful part, is that it becomes interactive. She engages with you on a meaningful level. And I say this all the time, but when I used to follow Christianity, it would feel like I would pick up the phone to God, try to talk, and there would be nobody on the other end. I don't experience that anymore. I really engage with Gaia Sophia as the goddess of my life in a way that is so meaningful to me personally, where she just gives me so much clarity on certain things, or there will just be a magical solution where I'm like, oh, like that's what I wanted and I didn't even articulate it. Because she already knows. She is that desire already. She already is it. It's just we get in the way thinking that we can do it better. And she's like, sister, please, just let me do it. And so when we do let her, that is when synchronicity abounds, and it is beautiful. And I'm trying to make shorter videos, so I'm gonna cut it off there. Thank you. I love you. If you have any questions, let me know, specifically about Gnosticism or really anything. I would love to address them. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.